Hello, friends. We have another amazing session for you, which is coming up, right? Which is the CFA Level 1 mock tutorial sessions. Friends, this is primarily for students who basically want to actually see how our sessions are conducted so that they can judicially take a call to take the complete course. So let's get started, friends. And then over the course of this lecture, you will be able to see for yourself whether our mode of conduct of this session is attractive to you or not. But before you get started, guys, here is how you can, join our How to CFA WhatsApp group. This WhatsApp group, we post regular insights on the financial concepts, and you can, be part of this group and can learn on a daily basis. There are two ways to join this group. One, on your left, there is a QR code. You can scan this QR code. It will direct you to the WhatsApp group where you can join this How to CFA group, or you can message on the WhatsApp number which is given on your screen so that we can then add you to the group. Or lastly, which is not there visible on your screen right now, is that you can also ask your friends who are already part of this group to make you join this group. Okay, so let's get started. Friends, you see, these are the topics of economics which are there for CFA level 1. So there are primarily, if you see carefully, there are primarily 8 to 10 topics in which demand and supply analysis is one of the topics where you actually see how in the market demand and supply interact with each other to give you a common price point. So there will be a demand in the market, there will be a supply of that good in the market. How will the demand and supply interact with each other in the market to generate a equilibrium price is what the basic contour of this first topic is. Then there is the topic on firm and market structures. This basically talks about different types of companies or different type of structures in in the market. Like there might be a monopoly where you have just one or two companies in the entire market, or you have a oligopoly where you have several companies, or you have a fair competition where there are several companies in the market. So how do these companies exist? What are the price points at which this exists? What are the market dynamics around which they exist? Their opportunities and constraints is what is discussed in topic number 2. Then you have aggregate output prices and economic growth, which is basically the GDP. You keep hearing this word in the financial domain, in political debates, in news channels, etc. But what are the contours of gross domestic product or GDP is part of your section number 3. And then you have business cycles. Business cycles are nothing but there are bear cycles and there are bull cycles, which means the market might be going down or the market might be up. What are the dynamics around which these phenomena happen in the market? How do governments counter these, etc., is part of your fourth topic. And then there are monetary and physical policies. Monetaries and physical policies are nothing but they are policies which any central bank in a country and the government of that country takes and or makes, and they are called monetary and physical policy. Monetary policies are made by the central banks, physical policies are made by the government of that country. Like in the case of India, it is RBI and the government of India, right, who make these policies. So what are these policies? How do they benefit the common man? How do they benefit the GDP of the country, etc., is part of this topic number 5. Then you have last two topics. These two topics in economics primarily cover globalization. So as you know, guys, Vasudeva Kutumbakam, which is also known as, it is a Sanskrit slok which says, whole world is one family, which means that all the countries today are connected with each other. So how do these connected relations pan out in actuality? Which means how do two countries trade with each other, how do the capital flows and outflows, what are the different currency exchange rates, how do the dynamics of these pan out. All this is part of your last two sections, which is basically part of globalization agenda, right? So this broadly is how the economics of CFA level 1 is structured. Today in this session, we are going to pick up one of the topics around demand, and I am going to walk you through the concepts as well as the market and practical understanding of the same. Before we move forward and get into the lecture, here is a quick synopsis of What is the weightage of economics in your CFA level 1 exam? Friends, as I have told you, that there are 10 sections in your CFA level 1, right? Some of these sections or all these sections are highlighted on your screen right now, starting from ethics, financial reporting, equity investment, all the way till derivatives and alternative investments. So there are altogether 10 sections which are there in CFA level 1, out of which one section is economics, which is part of your tutorial session today. And this has 8 to 12, approximately 10% kind of a weightage, approximately 10 percentage kind of a weightage. This weightage basically also, friends, tell you that how much efforts you have to put into each of the topics. Like a lot of topics on portfolio, derivatives, etc., can be prioritized for later because they cover only 5 to 8%. Similarly, 8 economics is somewhere in between because it has 8 to 10, 8 to 12% kind of weightage. So this is just to give you a context of where economics fit in the pecking order of the various topics which are part of CFA level 1. Now, guys, let's start the topic for today, which is effectively nothing but we start off with demand concepts, in which we have the first concept, which is called law of demand. And guys, without getting into the jargons of this, let's just very simply understand that, say if you purchase a phone from the market and that phone is of 10,000 rupees, you will purchase a certain quantity of that. Now, say on a big billion day on Amazon, the price of this good drops to 8,000. So this same phone with certain cashbacks and coupons and bank discounts, etc., you are getting for 8,000. Will the demand during big billion be higher or lower than the initial demand? Of course, higher, because at a lower price, the demand of the good is higher. Similarly, when the price of this phone goes up, then the demand will go down. This is very practical and very, very intuitive. So, this practicality or this intuitive concept of the market, where demand and price of a good is inversely proportional to each other, which means if one rises, the other falls, is called law of demand. Very, very simple. And in English language, or in slightly more refined language, it is called law of demand. And it is demand, and it means demand of a good is inversely proportional to its price. And friends, as I told you earlier as well during our initial interaction, that the intent of these courses which I have for for CFA is that intent is how do I make practical and intuitive learnings part and parcel of our concept building, so that it is very easy for you to comprehend any topic, right? Now let's look at point number 2, which I have mentioned here, that, friends, in economics, you will note that there is large usage of graphs. So a lot of concepts are explained via graphs. It is primarily because graphs are nothing but they are photographs or pictures. And as you know, pictures can say 1,000 words. It is very, very easy for us to comprehend and imbibe any new concept if we see how it pans out in terms of photographs. So let's just see how the graph of this thing would look like. So, what did we learn? As the price of the good. So, as a law of demand, we have seen that the price of the good is inversely proportional to the quantity of the good demanded, which means, say, if the price was, say, if the price is, say, P1, then you would demand a certain quantity Q1. So, assume your x axis is quantity and your y axis is price. So, what is going to happen? Your price is, at a certain price you have a certain demand. Say for example, this is your point number 1. Now say if the price increases to P2, which is a higher price. So you see, price has increased, so I will denote it with plus sign, has increased from P1 to P2. And in that case, what has happened? Your demand has gone down. Your demand has gone down. You see, the demand is Q2, or the quantity is Q2, which means your demand has moved down. It is negative. So, right? So, if you, this is your point number 2. So now if you join these curves, right, if you join these 2 points, what do you find? That this curve, right, and you can extend this curve, right, you can extend this curve, right, you can extend this curve. So what do you see? That this demand curve, this is also called demand curve, right, demand curve or demand graph, or it is also called a demand graph. And what do you see here? That they are inversely proportional to each other. And now you see, because they are, as one of them increases, price increases, quantity decreases, they're inversely proportional. So the graph is downward sloping. And that is why it is called inversely proportional to each other. And now I am sure with this graph in perspective, you will be able to better close your eyes and imbibe this concept in your mind. Let's now move forward and see which other concept do we have. The second thing, boys and girls, is demand function. So the first thing which we learned was law of demand, which is very simple. Demand of a good and price is inversely proportional. Now, beyond price, there are bunch of other things which will influence demand. Like, for example, you have two things on your screen here: income of an individual and price of other related goods. Let's tackle each one of them one at a time. What Say for example, you have a certain income. So you have a first job, that job is paying you 20,000 rupees. Now, today, you are not buying this 20,000 rupees phone, say for example. Now, tomorrow, after qualifying for CFA level 1, now you have got a better job. So now what is going to happen? Say for example, now your salary is 40,000 rupees. Now with a 40,000 rupees salary, maybe you will now demand this 20,000 rupees phone. You will say, yeah, now my salary is higher. Now I can afford this phone. So what does that tell you? That with the increase in salary or income, the demand of the good increases, and hence, continuing the demand concepts, demand is also directly related to an individual's income. So, continuing our philosophy of drawing graphs and creating pictures out of these concepts, again, let's draw the graph. And what does this graph tells us? This graph should tell us that if this is the quantity demanded on the y-axis and this is your income on the x-axis. So say for example, you initially had 20,000 rupees salary, 20,000 per month salary. And in that case, maybe you were not demanding this product. You see, you were not demanding this product. Now, right, or maybe there are few of you who say that, okay, we will still buy this product, right, we are going to stretch our finances and we are going to buy our product. So there is only so much quantity. Say two of you are saying that, okay, we will buy this product. So out of a class of 100, say for example, only two of you are actually buying. Now, after qualifying the CFA level 1 exam, right, say 40 of you, because generally the pass probability is 40. So, say 40 of you qualify the exam, and now you get into a much higher paying job, which is giving you a 40,000 rupees per month kind of a salary. Now, a lot of you, say out of 40, 20 of you are now aspiring. The two of you were already aspiring, 20 more are aspiring. So, say 22 of you are now aspiring to get this product, right? So now what will happen? Your demand has increased from point 1 or point A to point B, and you can see, if you join both these curves, you can see that it is a upward upward sloping curve. And upward sloping curve is called direct relation. So hence you have, between the quantity and the income, you have a direct relation between the two, right? So this is your concept number 2. Now here is an interesting trivia. When do you think this phenomena is not true? Which means that your salary is increasing, but the demand of that particular good is not increasing. Do you think there will be a situation when such things can happen? Of course. Of course. When will this happen? So the answer is Say for example, I take an example of a feature phone. Feature phone आपने देखा है? Feature phones are those early days Nokia 1100 phones, right? Small phones. They were not smartphones, they were small phones. A large population of India used to carry feature phones. Now, as the income of India or our countrymen, it keeps increasing, the feature phone demand will keep going down. Now, very less number of people in villages and smaller towns possess feature phones. Otherwise, everyone who has moved to the cities, right, or bigger towns to work, they have all switched to smarter phones, which means that even though the feature phone price is the same and your income also has increased because you were in the rural belt, now you have come to the city to work and your salaries have increased. But now instead of the demand of feature phone is not going up, it is rather going down, because with your income increasing, your demand for feature phones will keep going down, and hence such goods are called inferior goods. Very, very important, guys. And as I said, my intent of all these lectures is to relate the jargons or the terminologies or the concepts with actual practical world. Right, let me take some more examples. Remember back when people were poor, they used to buy open groceries, which means the kirana store used to have, or the grocery store used to have a big sack which was filled with grains, and he used to just weigh some of those grains and give it to you. So people used to buy open grocery. Now, with the income of the households increasing, the demand of that open grocery will go down, because the same individual whose income is increased considers this open grocery as an inferior good, and hence he will not demand this inferior good. So, hence, this is also very, very critical, that inferior goods are the goods wherein, with your increase of income, your tendency to buy those goods decreases. Right? So, I hope this is very, very clear. Now, let's move forward and let's move to the last point on this demand concept. So, what all did we learn today? Let's just take a step back. First, we learned that price and the quantity demanded. So demand of a good is dependent on the price and it is inversely proportional. Second, we learned that usually the income and the demand are directly related, which means if my demand is going up, then by design, my if my income is going up, the demand of that good will keep increasing. It will be upward trajectory. But yes, there is a caveat. It holds true for most of the goods, but there is a section of good called inferior goods, which with my income increase I tend to shun away or tend to move away from. Then now the third concept is, how will a demand of a good depend on the price of the related good. Let me give you a very simple, intuitive example. Again, boys and girls, stay with me, because as I said, we will take very practical examples to explain you some very complex terminologies and jargons. So, say the petrol prices in India 3 4 years ago was around 70 80 rupees a liter. Today, the price of the petrol has moved from 70 80 rupees a liter to 100 rupees a liter, right? Now, what do you think would be the demand of the cars? The demand of the cars would definitely go down, because petrol and car are related to each other directly, which means they go hand in hand. You can't just have a car and run it on water or air. You need to have a car and then you need to run it on fuel. So if the fuel prices go up, and these goods are related to each other, right, hand in hand, which means car and petrol kind of things, then the demand of the car should go down, right? So such goods which are related to each other hand in hand, which means they go together, are called complementary goods, number one. And the price of the complementary good, let me call the complementary good as y, if the price of the complementary good goes up, then the quantity of the related product, which is the related complementary good, it will go down, right? So in this case, if the price of the petrol goes up, then the quantity of the car will go down, because what? Because car and petrol are complementary to each other. They are complementary to each other, right? So they are complementary to each other. So this is very, very important concepts, boys and girls, from a perspective of economics, because in economics, price and quantity, how are they related, is at the heart of all the fundamentals which we are going to learn. Then there is second kind of related goods which are called substitute goods, which means that these goods generally do not go hand in hand. These goods are generally substitutes. Let me take an example. When you go to somebody's house, what do they say? Bhai, would you like to take tea or would you like to take coffee? Now, these are substitutes. You don't say, I would like to have tea as well as coffee. They are not complementary goods. It doesn't mean it doesn't go like I want to have petrol as well as the car, right? Both are hand in hand because they were complementary goods. But tea and coffee, they are substitute goods, because if you ask for one thing, then the second thing, right, is going to get substituted. So such substitute goods, now let's just take their example. If it is a substitute goods, my friend, what is going to happen? If the price of the tea is going to go up, if the price of tea is going to go up, what do you think would be the demand for coffee? Just see, very, very intuitive. If the price of tea will go up, then what will happen? The quantity which I will demand for coffee will increase, because a lot of people who used to drink tea, they would say, "Arey yaar, tea has grown very expensive. Let me go for coffee." So the quantity of coffee will go up. So this is very, very beautiful concept, boys, that tea and coffee, or for any substitute goods, they are directly related. They are directly related. Price and quantity demand are directly related. So if I am coffee and my demand is and the price of the tea is increasing, then the quantity demanded for the coffee will also increase, because people will switch over to my coffee versus tea. Got it? So hence now it is very, very simple to demonstrate it with a very, very simple graphs also. That what we have seen is that in case of price of tea and quantity of coffee, when we have basically the when we have the substitute goods, then this is how it behaves. That if the price of tea goes up, quantity demanded of the coffee will go up, and they will be directly related. This is for substitute goods. And if it is a complementary good, if it is a complementary good, so price of the price of, sorry, petrol and say quantity of car, so they are what? They are complementary goods. And in case of complementary goods, they are inversely related, because as the price of the petrol will keep going up, the quantity demanded of the car will continue to go down, and they are inversely related. So these are two very, very important things. In case of substitute goods, you have a direct relationship. In terms of complementary goods, you have a inverse relationship, right? So this is how, friends, this is all written in terms of a simple formula. What does this say? This is a simple demand equation. What does it tell you? Don't get scared from this formula. I know a lot of you fear mathematics, so absolutely nothing to fear. Maths is just 10-15% of your total course. Very, very simple. Learn this scary looking formula. What does it say? It says that the quantity of any product X is dependent on or is a function of, f is a short form for function, is a function of price of the product, which we saw, which generally is inversely proportional generally. Then it is function of income, which we saw that most of the goods, if your income increases, your demand will decrease, uh, demand will increase. And then it also depends on the price of the related good. Now that related good could be complementary or it could be substitute. If it is substitute, then it is inversely proportional. If it is complementary, then it is directly proportional, right? So now with this, guys, here is where I will end the session at. As I said, the intent is to make the concepts easy to comprehend, but at the same time, friends, while you fall in love with finance, do not lose your focus. You're doing all these tutorials to pass a very, very important and globally recognized certification, which is called CFA. So here is a problem from one of the CFA exams. And how did I get hold of this problem? So generally, as I said, thousands of students take up our courses. We survey them after the exam and ask them what kind of questions did they get. And basis our survey of 2020 CFA Level 1 exam, this is one of the problems which was asked in CFA Level 1. So let's go through this. Very, very simple. In that exam, there was one demand equation which was given. And let's read this demand equation. Let's try to decipher what these codes are. It says quantity demanded of product X is a function of bunch of things, right? It is a function of price of that product and it is negative. So it means it is inversely related. It is related with the income, which is directly related, which means it is not an inferior good, it is directly related. So as the income will rise, your quantity demanded will increase because it is with plus sign. And then it is also a function of a related good Y with which it is related negatively. What does that means? It means that when the price of this related good will increase, the demand of this good will go down. That is why there is a negative sign in front of it. Again, price of Y, which is a related good, when that is increasing, because it is followed by a negative sign, it has an inverse relation with quantity. So, which means the quantity of this demand will, quantity of this product X is going to go down. So, what kind of product is this? Let's go back. What did we see? In case of a complementary good, in case of a complementary good, we saw that there is an inverse relation between the price of the complementary good and the quantity. So hence in this case the question is very, very easy. The question says how are X and Y related to each other, and the answer is complementary good, because in the case of complementary goods, they are inversely related, right? Complementary goods like your car and petrol. So as we saw, if the price of petrol will go up, then the quantity demanded of car will go down, and hence they are negatively related. Inversely can also be in mathematical terms denoted by negative sign. So because there is a negative sign, it means that they are complementary goods. So the answer is A, complementary goods. Got it? So that is the end, friends, of the mock session. I hope you really liked the session. Three things which you must have observed in this session, friends. Number one, we have explained complex jargons in easy to understand language. So we understood a lot of complex jargons like law of demand, inferior goods, substitute goods, inverse relations, right? So all these are very, on the face of it, they are very complex terminologies. But we had these complex jargons in very easy to understand language. Then we took up real world examples. So we really took your examples, right? Of what all examples did we say? We saw actually the examples which were real world, and that is where we were able to relate it very well. And lastly, we did a lot of problem solving from previous year CFA exams, which will also be how we will do for future as well. And that is where our success rate becomes very, very high if you take up these video tutorials, which are just for 9,900 rupees. So thank you so much for joining this